Deaf community of Reddit, what are the stereotypical alcohol-induced communication errors when signing with a drunk person? Hearing child of deaf parents and deaf siblings here. In high school, I once came home from a party intoxicated and trying to act as sober as I could. I walked into my house hoping everyone was asleep, but of course my dad stayed up for me. I was signing to my dad after he asked how my night was, and it was like 10 pounds weights tied to my wrists. Oh, and I dropped my phone that was in my hand. Safe to say I was grounded for the next weekend. I was at my local bar one night and a rather large group of deaf folks came in. It was a pretty slow night other than this group, and it was absolutely fascinating to see. These two gentlemen got into an argument and it was so interesting to see them so heated at each other yet completely silent other than their aggressive signing. It didn't escalate much more than shouting via signing. But it was definitely one of the most interesting nights at the bar. My mom would always get giggly and have a hard time getting through a story clearly. Kind of like when hearing people are laughing and it's hard for them to get to their point. Also just general sloppiness lol. Signs bleed into each other and you have to repeat what you're signing more. I'm hearing, but I went to written-ted for a couple of years a long time ago. Had a friend who would stutter. He would stutter in his signing at the same points that he would stutter vocally. It was more pronounced when he was drunk. Slurring was real, too. People's hands would barely move. I am not deaf but I feel it necessary to share simply for the humor. A family I knew back in the late 70s had twin brothers that were deaf and mute. Apparently neither could read lips either. However, they were both good-looking kids about 19 years old. Also great athletes. Skiing and soccer were their games. We were in a bar one night near a ski resort in western NY. The place was packed. Two snow bunnies came in and tried to talk to them but quickly learned communication was going to be an issue. I knew hardly any sign and I had no idea where their brother was. He was not deaf or mute. I explained to the girls and they went to sit at a table. So one of the twins came over to me shrugging his shoulders and pointing at the girls. I gave him a napkin and a pencil. They write on the napkin and walk over to the table where the girls were sitting. They read what was on the napkin, laughed, finished their drinks and all four of them walked out of the bar. They left the napkin on the table so I went over and looked at it. It said, "Hello, we are Mitch and Casey and want to know if you want to fuck." I was dying laughing. My sister is with degenerative hearing and will eventually be completely deaf, but when she's drunk she will switch between verbally speaking and signing. It's hilarious when she's around people other than her husband/our family and they don't sign because she'll get increasingly frustrated when people can't keep up with the signing in verbal words until she remembers most people don't sign. Then she flushes all the way up to her ears and immediately drunkenly stumbles away from the social situation. There's a pretty large deaf community around Gallaudet University which is also near some popular dance clubs and bars in DC. Can't tell if they have translation issues once drunk, but they have the upper hand at communicating on a loud dance floor. So, I am not deaf, and I already posted this as a response to another comment, but I thought this would add to the overall conversation. My cousin is deaf, and he says hearing people sign better when we're drunk. When we're sober, we try too hard to make all of our signs perfect. That makes us sign slowly, which can be frustrating for them to keep up with. When we're drunk, we don't care, so we sign fast. We make more mistakes, but he almost always knows what we mean. I'm studying ASL interpreting. Some signs are very close to each other. For example, once I was trying to sign funeral procession and I instead signed fucking. Also, vegetable and virgin are almost the same. Hungry and horny are almost the same. I've made the sign for vagina on accident because it's literally making a triangle with your hands. ASL is amazing, but man it's hard to learn sometimes lol. My cousin is deaf and tells me of how she forgot the sign for slap so completely unprompted, hauled off and slapped the guy she was chatting with and then kept going. So this cat is waving around all like a wizard, then the other cat shoo, shoo, pow to the little one and, what? Also, dropping things she's holding in order to sign, and signing to people she knows don't sign then getting confused/annoyed and signing slowly and very carefully instead of grabbing her phone to write. It's like no, dummy, like fives went air. Sorry. I'm on phone, bear with me. Not deaf. My uncle was dating a deaf woman at the time, in 2005, and they got drunk one night before New Year's Eve and they were having a great time, and it quickly became 1 a.m., then some random thing came up from not too long ago, car carpet issues with smoking some together thing I can't remember. They were having a fight which went on for around 30 minutes. All of a sudden, Uncle blurts out, "Okay, that's enough, I'm done." She became more pissed off and was signing that she was not done. He told me about it later, but he was going but I am. And then he turned off the lights. Not deaf, but took ASL for 4 years and became very close with many who are deaf/hard of hearing. One thing that is hard to adapt to is the speed of signing once everyone has had a drink. All of a sudden everyone is signing at the equivalent speed of an auctioneer. Sometimes when that happened I would simply leave the party, because trying to stay in a conversation was impossible. In time it became easier to understand. My old professor told me, it's like reading, when you are learning you only see the letters, D-O-G, then over time you see dog. At some point you won't just see words, you'll see sentences and paragraphs and then, stories. That's what sign language truly is, the language of stories. I loved learning sign language, and that professor was amazing. Tip: don't make up your own signs. Our autistic son was learning sign at a school for the deaf. His new teacher taught the kids "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." She did not know the sign for diamond and improvised by putting thumbs together and 4 fingers together creating a diamond shape. Hint: this is not the sign for diamond. When the program for parents came around, the deal parents were surprised to see them sign, like a vagina in the sky. Hysterical. Verbal slips of the tongue, speech errors, are fairly common when you're drunk. Think, I hissed my mystery class instead of I missed my history class. Deaf signers can produce slips of the hand. I'm a hearing person who tends to produce a lot of slips of the tongue, even when I'm not drunk, and I've also produced many slips of the hand when communicating with my deaf friends. They get a kick out of it. My roommate isn't deaf but she is fluent in ESL. We learned one night that her big tell that she's had too much to drink is talking and signing at the same time. At one point 4 Long Islands into this super skinny girl who never drinks, we told her she had to sit on her hands. She had a lot of difficulty talking after that. She also doesn't handle alcohol well, since if she's not paying close attention she has a hypoglycemic attack, which we witnessed firsthand on this night, and it was terrifying. Her husband and I spent the better part of 3 hours propping her head up to alternate in an endless cycle of drinking water, nibbling food, and throwing up, all while on the verge of considering a trip to the hospital. Needless to say, now when we see her start signing while talking, we sit her ass down and tell her to drink some water.